My name is Horacio Lopez-Nicora. I'm the soybean pathologist and nematologist here at Ohio State, and today we're going to talk about soybean seedling diseases. Just a reminder of the disease triangle, because we're going to be talking about diseases. We need these three components. We need a susceptible host, the presence of the pathogen, and the conducive environmental condition. And that's where we're going to focus today when we're talking about seedling diseases. Saturated soils, poorly drained soil, a lot of water, seeding water, cool conditions, slow emergence are all things that we will start to think about when we focus on the conducive environmental conditions if we suspect that we have a seedling disease issue. This is a sample that arrived this week to the lab. This is coming from a field here in Ohio. You can see in one of these pictures a lot of moisture, a lot of seeding water when that seedling is trying to come out, emerge. And we can also see that the tissue is damaged, right? We see that the tissue is essentially consumed by this pathogen. The steps that we're going to take in the lab and what we do when we receive this type of sample is try to confirm if the damage is actually caused by a living organism, a pathogen. We surface sterilize those seeds and we play them on different media to try and isolate the causal agent, the pathogen. And then we characterize to know what type of pathogen is causing this issue. But clearly we see that we are dealing here with some type of seedling disorder. In Ohio, we struggle with a lot of pathogens that will cause dumping off. Dumping off essentially is that rotting of the seeds before they emerge, and we call that pre-emergence dumping off, or the killing of the seeds right after emergence, and we call that post-emergence dumping off. So here I have examples of water moles, our Phytophthora amphitheums, very common in Ohio, very common in very heavy soil, soils with saturated water and poorly drained soil. And we can see here some seedlings that emerge and were affected by these pathogens. Sometimes in the case of Phytophthora sojei, the damage can still happen later in the season when we have a lot of rain during summers and seeding water. Those pathogens can infect plants if these are susceptible, as we can see here. There's a lot of diversity in terms of different species of this water mole in Ohio, and just pulling the life cycle of these organisms or the disease cycle, we can see that they really require seeding water. So saturated soils, wet conditions, compaction will all enhance the severity of these water mole issues. But another thing to point out is because we have so much diversity in all these different water mole pathogens, we can see that at different soil temperatures, they will be very active. So no matter if we have very cool soil temperatures or very warm soil temperatures, if we have these water moles in our field, we may have to think about an integrated management approach for water moles. This is what we commonly see in the field when we encounter seedling issues caused by water moles, in this case Phytophthora sojei. And again, at later stage, this can also take place by causing this stem rot. There are other organisms, so the water moles are fungal-like organisms. They're not true fungi. We have other group of organisms such as Fusarium and Rhizome that are considered true fungi. And I'm saying this because when we select the seed treatment, the active ingredients we're going to put in our seeds, we need to choose the one that targets these specific organisms. The active ingredients that work really well to manage Phytophthora amphitheums, those water mole organisms, will not do a really good job managing the true fungi such as Fusarium and Rhizome. And we may have both of them in the field, so we need to think about a mixture of active ingredients that can target both of those pathogens. But I'm showing some examples here. Later in the season, we can still see some of these root damage Rhizoctonia normally is characterized by a more reddish symptom, and Fusarium will normally cause a lot of seedling damage and later on root damage as well, causing those wilting. Here's just to reinforce what I just was saying about selecting active ingredient. This is an example where we inoculated these seedlings with Fusarium. So this is a true fungi. And when we use a fungicide, such as Captan or Maxim, that actually will target this organism, we do a really good job, as you can see there, when we compare to the control. However, when we use a product that is meant to control Phytophthora and Pythium, those fungal-like organisms, not true fungi like Fusarium and Rhizoc, you see that absolutely it's not doing any work, and Fusarium is completely affecting those seedlings. So some final considerations and things to think about when we are facing maybe a stand reduction in the field, when we're seeing that our plants are not emerging, or when they are emerging, they're dying soon after. Are these different questions that we may have. Is disease causing poor stand establishment? Of course, there can be other abiotic conditions that can cause stand reduction, but disease for sure can be one of these. So a correct and accurate diagnostics is very important when we are trying to identify the cause of our poor stands in the field. Could the fungicide rate be an issue? Absolutely. Reading the labels, making sure that the seed treatment was applied correctly will be very important. How much time that seeds with seed treatment has been sitting in a very cool and wet soil environment will also affect. And then what else can help? If we have multiple organisms causing issues and other abiotic situations and threats, then an integrated management approach should be considered. Always selecting a cultivar with resistance to this pathogen, an adequate seed treatment with appropriate active ingredient that will target the different pathogens we have, and cultural management will always help keep those soils well drained and things like that. I'm sharing these two QR codes. You will be able to access to more thorough answers to those questions that I provided in the previous slide. And then the other QR code will take you to a fact sheet with different products and active ingredients and how well they behave against these different pathogens. It's a great tool when we're starting to make decisions on what seed treatment to use in the field. And with that, walk your fields, check if those seedlings are coming out, and if you have any issues, if you suspect of a seedling disease, please reach out to us, send your sample to the lab. We can help you diagnose the problem.